Welcome everyone to the Sunday Night Show. I am your host, Tyler J. Puharic, and this Sunday night is a very special Sunday night because it is Father's Day. So, our very special guests this evening are none other than my own parents, Brian and Tammy Hughes. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So originally I had the plan to do one for Mother's Day, but due to some time restraints in filming, we never got to. So my parents were jokingly saying how they were preparing that whole week to be on the Sunday Night Show. So I thought, well, there's another holiday loving on our parents. So I thought for that one, we will bring them on. So they are here tonight to share the nitty-gritty of who I was, who my brother Tanner, who is one of our student leaders, youth leaders, he's not a student, he's a youth leader, is, and things like that. So to start, why don't you guys kind of share who you are a little bit, where you work or different things like that. Dad, maybe the many places you have worked. You can share with us. So please share with us.
I have not had that many jobs in my lifetime. Now, my name's Brian, born and raised in Beaver County. So for the first time in my life, moving up here is really the first time I've had a residence outside of Beaver County. I work for Charter Foods. We own and operate a bunch of fast food restaurants. I did live in New Jersey for a while. Which is
7 years.
Okay, so yeah,
7 years.
let's take
Not
a
a
pause
blank.
real quick.
Not a blank.
In my life, I've lived in 3 major places, and this being, I think, the third. And
was
him
New
being in my
Jersey.
life the whole time, how do you
Trying-
forget the 7 years
trying
that
to
we
ignore those
spent
years.
in? Okay.
New Jersey.
So
That's
Beaver
all you have
County,
to
New
say.
Jersey, and now Girard,
Yes.
and you're saying that you currently work for Taco Bell for Charter Foods.
Yes.
Okay.
That
Would
is
you like to share anything else?
No, that's it. I just work on the facility side. So I got out of operations into the facility side, and I love both of them, so it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, you helped make sure the Girard Taco Bell was up and ready to open, right?
That is our company. Yes. Yep.
Cool. Yep. There you go. And Mom, would you like to share who you are and what you do, and maybe tell the truth of where you've lived?
I too have lived in all those places as he has. I have been in Beaver County. I was born and raised in Mars, Pennsylvania. I went to school in Mars High School. But other than that, we have lived in Beaver County in Darlington, and we owned 22 acres up on a hill and had no neighbors. And then we went to a total social role reversal. We went into New Jersey that had plenty of neighbors and sidewalks, and everything was very well lit. And then we moved back. We had the opportunity to relocate back to Beaver County into the same school district that we were in, which is Blackhawk. And then we most recently came up here to Girard. So I work for Arby's. I worked for Arby's for 22 years. So the kids have grown up on Arby's. They both the boys, for a short stint, worked at an Arby's. So now they have become my secret shoppers. And every time they like to go to Arby's, they will call me and give me the scoop on their experience.
Very detailed.
Very detailed because they work there.
Yeah, it's come to the point where when we go out to eat as a family and we go to an Arby's, we're all looking at our sandwiches, and Amy and Mom are kind of just staring at us blankly, because Dad will do it too, because he worked at Arby's for a while too. So Tanner, Dad, and I will all be looking at our meal to make sure that it's right, because we all work there. And so, yeah, I do call Mom quite a bit, because I love Arby's. I do love Arby's. So I was born in Pittsburgh, so lived in Pittsburgh for a few years in the city. Then we moved out to the Beaver County area, and then moved around there until we lived on a hill. Our driveway was half a mile long. It was the absolute worst thing ever, because FedEx is here. So it was one of the worst things because in the winter the driveway would freeze and we would have to walk up our half-a-mile driveway. Getting off the school bus, there would be no one to pick us up, and it was just horrendous. Then we made the life change of moving to New Jersey, and we went from having no neighbors and a lot of land to having a lot of neighbors and very little land, but a pool. A pool.
We did have that.
We did have a pool. So, yeah, and then when I was in college, I went to Geneva College, as many of you know already. My parents ended up moving back to the area so I could live at home and commute, which means you live at home or live somewhere else other than college and attend. So I got to live there, and Tanner graduated from Blackhawk and different things like that. So
Now we moved back for work, not because you went to college.
yeah, they
We
relocated
weren't
because of
stalking
work.
you.
Yeah. My parents don't, just follow me around, I guess. Even though it's kind of may seem like that since they came back when I was in college, and now they moved up to Gerard after I got the job here, but they So where did you go to college or trade school, or did you do anything like that? Did you go right into the workforce? And whether what you did, why did you choose that way? Would you share us with that?
Well, I came out of high school and I did military for a little bit. So, and then I went into Robert Morris University, got my degree in management, and then I've been in fast food ever since. So I originally wanted to be a police officer. That was my life goal. And then I ended up in fast food. So I'm not sure how that happened, but it has been a great life, and it is, it's helped to raise a great family. So it worked out, but that's pretty much was my path.
I went to a business school in downtown Pittsburgh, and it was just a 10-month business school. And at the time, I was working in a restaurant. Rack's Roast Beef is where I started, so it's kind of funny because now I'm working at Arby's Roast Beef, so it came full circle for me. But it was not. I had an opportunity to go into management, and then just stuck with it.
Very cool. Very cool. And it's interesting that you wanted to be a police officer. Now Tanner's going to be a police officer. So it's cool how life works like that, how God has that plan. So how and when did you guys meet Jesus and come to know him as your personal savior? So could you share with us a brief part of your testimony with us?
I mean, I grew up in the church. So every Sunday we'd go to church. I went to a Presbyterian church, Clinton Presbyterian Church. Every Sunday, my nanny was very much a big part of my life and making sure I had a straight and narrow moral compass. But I've pretty much always known Jesus and who he was, and even at any given age, it was just quite obvious that he was my savior. So for a little bit, we had strayed away from the church. Not that we strayed away from God or anything like that, but we did, for a brief period of time, we had strayed away. And then we went in, when we lived in Darlington, we went back to church, and it has been a huge part of our life ever since. So, but I've been fortunate that my entire life, that was just the way I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And Mom?
When I was growing up, your Nana, my mother, was born, or she was raised in a Catholic boarding school. So she never wanted, it wasn't necessarily, she went to school with the nuns and she was boarded away from home. So her experience growing up wasn't necessarily very positive. So we did attend a Catholic church, but we only went on holidays. So I knew who God was and who Jesus was, and I knew all the stories because she was able to articulate that as we grew up, but had no really a connection through church, other than attending during holidays. And it really wasn't until, as a mother, looking at you guys as children and thinking about wanting more for you than what I would have went through, and wanting you to have a better understanding and a better relationship. And that want turned into us going to, Cup Church and it was just awesome. Really, after that, it was finding the right place for the right reason at the right time, and then it just became. It wasn't just something that we did or we went to church. We were. It was part of us.
So you remember when we moved to New Jersey and we had to find another church every week? She would drag us from one church to another.
Yeah.
She took us to a Korean church that only spoke Korean, so that was.
I was trying to find the right fit. It was like a bad version of the bears were the porridge. You know, one was this, one was that. It was trying to find. We were trying to find the exact church that we walked away from. We were trying to find that feeling somewhere in New Jersey, and there was plenty of churches to choose from. They were on every corner, but we just couldn't seem to find. It took us a while to find because it was very different.
I think when we couldn't read the writing on the wall, we should have realized that we weren't in the right spot, but yeah.
And they were all trying to run out the door, and I was like, "Hey, we're here. Let's just attend this and see what happens."
Yeah.
For most of them.
Yeah, and I think that many of us struggle with that whether we move or something happens, and we know that church is important to be a part of the body and seeking that time to spend with God in community. So I think that we as a family went through what many families, maybe some of you watching, have gone through, just finding your church, finding your home body, and getting plugged in. And so thank you for sharing that with us. So on another side, we have always gone to the movies. I love the movies. My parents mess with me all the time because when I was in college, when Amy and I were dating, Tuesday nights was the half off movie night. So I would go meet Amy in the town she lived because she lived by the movie theater. And we would get Steak and Shake, which is no longer in Erie, or I heard in Beaver County. And we would go get Steak and Shake, get really cheap burgers, and then we would go to the movies really cheap because I was a college student. And so my parents would be like, "Oh, did you see this movie yet? Did you see this movie yet? Like, was this movie good?" But we always enjoyed going to the movies too. So all that to say, what is your favorite movie?
Whoa.
I know what yours is.
What?
Go ahead. It's Avatar.
It is Avatar. I love that movie. It's probably the only movie I actually saw multiple times in the movie theater, which you do all the time. Like we'll say, I've already seen it, but I'll go again. I usually don't do that. Once I see it, I saw it, I don't go back. That one, I think I dragged everybody I could get to go to that movie theater to see it. But I very much like Avatar, and for some reason, it seems like it's taken 20 years to make Avatar 2, but they keep saying it's going to come out one of these years, so we'll see. But I very much enjoyed that movie.
Maybe it'll be like a really good sequel, like, I forget what movie took forever to make a sequel, but I feel like there was
it better be phenomenal
recently.
for as long as it's taken them to make it. So.
Oh, like Incredibles 2. Like Incredibles 2, it took like forever, like a whole lifetime. Like,
I cannot believe you just...
Incredible.
Avatar, Incredible 2.
Well, no. But what I'm saying is, like, there was always the thought.
There
was always the thought of a second movie, but there never was. So, like, I grew up as a kid watching Incredibles 2, and now, like, there's kids watching Incredibles 2 having no recollection of Incredibles 1, having to go on Disney Plus to watch it.
Right.
So, yeah, maybe it'll happen. Maybe it will never will. Maybe they'll just keep pushing it back forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
I even dragged my dad in to see Avatar, which you knew my dad. That's funny because he doesn't go to the movies very much, but yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah. Mom, what about you? Do you have a favorite?
First of all, I would like to say that I don't think you acted like this whole movie is on Tuesdays and it was so long ago in your college days. I believe until COVID hit,
Every day.
it was still going on because anytime we would want, because that's also one of Brian's favorite things to do. And so when it was time to do like a special outing for us, trying to find a movie that you hadn't seen yet was almost impossible. And so we'd go through the whole line of, have you seen this yet? Have you seen this yet? And then it was always a bummer for us because it was like leftovers.
It could be that I eventually bought the Cinemark Movie Pass. And so it could very well be that right before COVID hit, when movie theaters were still open, Amy and I went to go see Onward, and we knew very well movie theaters could close for maybe forever, so I might have splurged and got even the deep fried food there. Okay, yes, we still go to the movies.
And didn't you go like every Tuesday with Clay there for a long stretch?
No, Clay and I would go to we couldn't go to the premieres because sometimes he worked on Friday or we had the young adults. So what we would do is we would go Friday mornings since he was off.
Put this
we would
together
go
now.
Friday
Tuesday
mornings.
night with Amy, Friday morning.
No, it
with
wasn't
Clay.
Tuesday nights anymore after I graduated, like after we moved up
We're
here.
putting this all
But
together.
Friday morning, so like we saw Avengers, I think it was Endgame. We saw Avengers Endgame Friday morning because we were going to Breakaway that weekend, and there was no way we could go to the retreat when I knew like Dave and all the other guys would watch it. I couldn't have that spoiled for me. So Clay and I went Friday morning, the first showing. We were like no one was in the parking lot. We were eating Dunkin' Donuts waiting. Pastor Lamick eventually showed up and we all got to go together. But yeah, I never saw a line out the door of movie theater open until I started going with Clay and Pastor Lamick on Fridays. So.
Well, as far as my favorites, you guys are more the movie theater. If I'm going to see a movie at the movie theater, which you guys know, I always want to see like the big cinematic experience. So for me, it's more of an experience. When I was growing up, I would go, when we went to the movies with my sister and my mom, they were the criers. So no matter what happened, they would cry, and I would walk out not crying. So that I remember the very first movie I ever cried at the movie theater was All Dogs Go to Heaven. So that's like a personal favorite, Charlie. So, and then I did cry quite a bit at Free Willy, which there was a whole line of children behind me, and I only had one little napkin, and I went with a friend of mine, and we were crying. And when Michael Jackson starts singing at the end, goner. It was just flooding out, and I turned around, and the kids were all staring at me like, what is wrong with her? So those were the first two movies that I can remember crying. And then Steel Magnolias is probably one of my classic all-time favorites. So yeah, those are the movies. And then, of course, all the Lord of the Rings. So those would be my adventure favorites.
Very cool.
But then I invented Redbox and it ruined my movie going days.
Yeah, because most movies you can watch at home.
So
I like watching movies at home, but you guys like going to the theater. It's got to be.
It's all about the experience and the overpriced popcorn.
It's all about the experience.
But it's got to be a cinematic like masterpiece. I don't want to just watch something.
Any movie you go to the movie theater, it's a cinematic masterpiece.
No.
Especially if you get like the D box. I've never gone that far. The seats that shake. I think it's absurd. But if you want like Free Willy to be a cinematic experience, buy the D box
Do you
seats.
even remember that movie?
Vaguely.
You gotta watch it.
So if
When
I
Michael-
vaguely
when
remember
Michael
it,
Jackson
I don't know
sings at
how
the
many
end,
people are going to even
it's,
know what Free. Like
well,
Avatar, maybe.
Now you need to go
But
see
Free Willy-
You're Googling it. What is
Yeah.
Free Willy, the original. This was a big movie, yeah.
Okay. So what do you guys like to do in your free time? Which this was the question I was reading earlier that I was chuckling because I already know the answer for sure. But why don't you tell those watching at home what you like to do in your free time? Let's start with you, Mom.
Oh. I don't really like to have any free time. I like to fill every moment with something to do, whether it's on vacation, which I know that's where he's going right now, or at home. There's always something to do. There's always things that can be getting done. And so, yeah, I pretty much wake up in my mind. I formulate an agenda, and then I go about getting that done. So if I had nothing to do, I would still have to do something. I can't just sit and not do anything. I do like playing. I have a Kindle, so if I was relaxing, but I'll watch TV and I'll play at the same time. So I have to be multitasking all the time.
Yeah, and before you answer, since you brought up vacation, when I was a kid, I believe it was when I was going in it, like when I was in 8th grade, we went to Disney for the very first time. And Mom's plan was we had a week, but we had to hit every theme park in Disney, like the main 4. And we had to do everything there. She had an itinerary. This is supposed to be vacation where you enjoy yourself. No, she had an itinerary for everything. And we brought Nana. And Nana, we got her a scooter because You know,
Because she couldn't keep up.
Nana needs
Yeah,
scooters.
exactly, because she couldn't keep up.
There was a point where we were all so tired and exhausted. I just remember Nana just putting away angrily with like Tanner being so confused on what to do, whether to go with Mom or to go with his dear Nana. So he's like following Nana, almost getting run over by the scooter as she's putting away angrily. And it was because somebody managed to max out our vacation. So I told her, because we go on vacations now, usually every summer, as a family, I told her, I said, look, we can do some things, but I don't want a full schedule anymore. I'm an adult now, and I'm not being dragged around and thrown around. I want a say in these vacations, and I just want to sit somewhere, and that's it. Like, vacation means you don't do anything. Just sit and play cards, or play a game together, or go to the movies, or enjoy wherever you're going. It does not mean that you do 1,000 things in the 10-hour span of a theme park. That's all.
But we did see everything, even though we had to run sometimes to get to the next gate.
You know, here's the thing. Someday, Ty, you will realize when you have kids, first of all, we put it on our goals every year, and we couldn't afford to go. And so when we managed, it was a big deal to be able to go to Disney. And so what I thought in my mind was, how will we maximize, like, if I never get a chance ever to go back, I want to know that I conquered it and we left no stone unturned. So it was a mission. And we did conquer it.
It was something.
We did see everything.
Mission, a
every
cardio
show.
workout, a race.
And so I'm glad I scarred you guys all with your first trip to Disney, but we did conquer it. It was a success in my mind. It was a success.
You did conquer it, Mom.
Yeah.
You did. She did.
We saw everything.
She did. We saw everything. It was all a blur because it was a week, but we saw everything, and all we can remember is the pain of
Oh, good.
the longest
Of
ride.
running.
No, I'm just
There'll
kidding.
be no return
We
trip.
got 5 minutes to make it across the park. Go.
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 Yeah.
But free time we like working on houses, so we seem to fix them
Yeah,
up. And,
yeah, you do. You do.
Fix them up, and then we move to another one, and then we fix it up, and we seem to move to another one. So there really is no free time because there's always something to do.
So retirement will just be
Working on
a
another
final
house.
home.
I think I made the joke
One more final home.
because they live a few blocks down, so I was helping upstairs because they're renovating their upstairs and to make it a master bedroom. It's really cool. But I think I even made the joke to Tanner, and they heard me. I was like, I don't know why they're talking about how they're going to be staying up here, because by the time they finish this renovation, they're going to sell the house and move somewhere else.
Well, and we actually ended up with the house because at the time, Tyler and Amy were looking for, they were renting an apartment for the first year, and we just happened to stumble across a fixer-upper and thought that if they couldn't purchase a home, we would get that, fix it up over time, and then they would be able to even rent that or live in that until they were able to find something that they wanted to find. So they ended up finding a home and being able to move in, and then we had the house to fix up. So
now maybe it'll be Nana's home one day. Maybe Nana. If you're watching at home, Nana, maybe it's the time. Okay, so moving on. We've talked about, a little bit about who you guys are, things like that. So could you share with us maybe if you have a favorite Bible verse or a story in the Bible, something that you might just hold on to as you go throughout your day or anything like that? Could you share anything with us?
Now you're showing my weakness on Bible verses.
It's okay if you don't remember the exact verse, but maybe something that God has really just laid on your heart, scripture that you think of. I can think of different scriptures that mean a lot to me, and sometimes I struggle with, the verse and different things. So maybe if you don't memorize the verse, that's okay, but could you share with us?
Yeah, mainly for me, it's James. I always go back to James in the Bible for some reason, and I don't know why. It's just, whenever, even like when things get tougher, that seems to be my go-to, which is not one that most people say, yeah, go to James, read that first. But that seems to be my go-to for my Bible section, and where I'll go when I start, when I go back to read, I'll start there and then I'll branch out from that. But it always for me begins with James, and then I'll jump around from there.
Very interesting.
For me, it's, well, I'm actually back in Daniel now. And I guess it's, I'm probably more drawn to the scriptures of, I don't know, just stories of incredible faith. Because there are times, a lot of times that, I that's something I always see in other people and I admire. Like just when, it's, I would hope that somebody would look and admire that in me sometimes too, when I have extreme faith in situations, but it's usually when you don't have, when you're doubting and you see somebody that has just an extreme amount of faith and is confident and always happy. That's something that I admire in other people. So it's, it's just, there's a lot of examples in the Bible of just, an incredible amount of faith.
I think for me, it's the reminder that the Lord's always with you. I don't know if that's why I keep going back to that, but.
Thank you for sharing. So we're going to take a brief intermission, and we are going to cut to commercial. And when we come back, we are going to get to the nitty-gritty that all of you are dying to hear about you guys as parents and Tanner and I as kids. So we'll be right back.
Make sure you like and comment below on who you'd like to see as future guests and what topics you'd like discussed.
And we are back. So yes, we had that very interesting intermission from none other than Batman himself. So once again, a reminder, if you would like to be on the Sunday Night Show, please reach out to me, message me, call me, email me even. Let me know that you want to be on the show. It's not that hard to get on the show, and I think it's a lot of fun, but I'm pretty biased since I'm the host and the person that thought of this. Also, if you would like to give us your opinion on the different topics you would like to hear us talk about and discuss with whatever special guests we have and things like that, drop a comment below and message me to let me know what topic we should be talking about next. Is it a movie that we should talk about? Is it a book we should talk about? Is it whatever? Fill in the blank and let us know. All right, so now that we're back, it's time to talk about parenting. The number one question from one of our students named Hannah was this: what were Tanner and I like as kids? So could you share, specifically about us, or could you share a little bit more about our childhood, our family dynamic? Jump in and tell the nitty gritty.
I'll definitely let you handle that one. Polar opposites, absolutely polar opposites. Though I will say, we worked. So Tanner was younger. 6 maybe when we moved to New Jersey. 7. He was young.
No, we moved in 2008, so he would have been 8.
Wow. He acted
born in 2000.
Yeah.
Well, he was the baby of the
He
family.
was definitely the baby.
He's the baby of the family.
2006.
Huh?
It was
No, it was 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
No.
2000, summer of 2007, going into 2008. Yeah, no, but Tanner, side note, Tanner's the baby of the family, and he is hopefully growing out of it. No, he's not even growing out of it now. Because you want to know why Tanner's not growing out of it now? When I was a kid, okay, this man would be like, you have to wear your dress pants, you have to wear your dress shirt, you can't be wearing shorts to church, you can't be wearing this to church. And Tanner shows up in sweatpants of all things. He has mellowed out completely, or it's another effect of the baby of the family. You think about it and you let us know. Is it Dad's mellowing out, or is it Tanner's just the baby of the family? He gets special treatment.
Well,
I wouldn't know because I'm not the baby of the family.
First of all, so when we went to New Jersey, we went to a church called Kingsway, if you remember. Having grown up in the Presbyterian USA Church, it was very hymnal, and you guys broke me at that church. I can remember the first 2 or 3. The first time we went, I was afraid to go back. I literally was afraid to go back. I couldn't do it. I thought it was a Baptist church. It was more than I could handle. It was.
If you haven't realized yet, it's not that he doesn't, accept the different types of churches or anything. It's just that my father's a very in the box kind of person.
Yes.
Like he defines box people, okay? So the moment you go out of, like the moment the box opens and there's any light, he freaks out because he can't handle it. So this is what he's sharing right now with
True.
us.
I mean, my whole wardrobe was all earth tone colors. It used to drive her crazy. But so you just have opened my eyes to a different way. That's all.
No,
because
that is baloney. Because
But Tyler's jumping in. First of all, he was asking us our parenting questions, and he just, when it came to Tanner, he jumped right in on that one and rode that answer himself.
Yes.
But I think that the correct answer is actually answer number C, which was not given by Tyler. And that would be that he grew up idolizing his brother. And his brother, when we went to Kingsway, it was a different type of worship, and you were able to dress in jeans and a t-shirt and go casual, and he followed in that step. So he actually grew up in that kind of element. You guys went to camps, you went to retreats, and it was very much a casual atmosphere. So we just kind of let you guys evolve and find your own way of expressing yourself. So the true answer is answer option C, given by me, not by either one of those.
I just think that it's a mix of A and B. So it's clearly D, a mix of A and B and ignoring C. So, but please share with us, what we were like as kids, things like that, any embarrassing stories.
So going back to you and Tanner, so as a kid, we always knew that Ty would do something with youth. That was quite obvious. But then Ty also had his other side where he was very aggressive when he was in wrestling, very aggressive when he played football.
Competitive.
Very competitive, very competitive. So then he had his younger brother who probably weighed all of 30 pounds growing up. He was quite skinny. So for Ty, that made him an easy tackling dummy, wrestling dummy, drown him in a swimming pool dummy, just everything. Don't let him kid you.
I can't help that
He
Tanner and I were
manhandled
born
him.
with different body dynamics. Tanner was a very scrawny child. I was a very husky child. So I can't help that. That's not on me. Okay. So I can't help that he was smaller and lighter.
we
And
lived-
more fragile.
And we lived in fear every minute that Tyler was going to break his brother in half. So we were constantly watching out the window in the swimming pool or no,
Now Tanner's bigger and stronger than me, so
but
that's how life
it
works.
is true that Tanner wanted to be almost everywhere you were. He wanted to be there too. He did follow you a lot. So
He was devastated when he went away to college.
yes.
Because it was, the house went to alone. I mean, he didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
It was, so it was quite a, quite a change for him. So
But that was the dynamics.
Tanner was,
It kept us busy.
Tanner was always full of energy though.
Yes.
Growing up, it was just run, full of energy. Just wanted to do everything that you were doing. And you were always very competitive, but you were also social. You were always socially bound. There was always, he could never come home just by himself. He would always drag everybody home with
I
him.
wouldn't drag people over.
Oh, yes.
They wanted to come over.
And then I would make dinner, and then I would have to make extra dinner just by counting how many people were coming in. I would stock the freezer. We had a freezer in the garage, and I would have to stock it with just anything that I could make in a flurry because you just never knew how many people were going to be there for dinner. And then sometimes I would make several dinners and then walk away, and Tyler and Darren, who lived down the street,
That was only one time.
who he
One
was
time.
always over too.
One time.
I mean, just a neighborhood a kid in the neighborhood, and he would come over, eat. The kids wouldn't even be home. He'd come over and play video games, and it was like I had lots of children from the neighborhood. But I actually left the room, and they ate all of that night's dinner and the extra pan of chicken casserole that I made to put in the freezer. Those two ate it all, and there was
Listen.
nothing left for dinner for anybody else.
We were going into senior year of high school, and it was football season. So we had 2-a-day practices. We were trying to bulk up to be better linebackers. It was our senior year, and so we were working out all the time, we were conditioning all the time, and we were eating all the time. We had to fill those carbs. So Mom traveled. She still travels a lot with her work, but at that time she would be gone a week and then she would be home a week and things like that. So she would cook, because if she didn't cook, somebody would only cook Salisbury steaks for the whole entire week. Pizza or Salisbury steaks. That was the only two things. And it wasn't like we ordered pizza. It was the frozen pizza or Salisbury steaks. So she cooked, and I couldn't help. It was a delicious meal. And you said, feel free to grab seconds. I was under the impersonation that you already...
Second bowl.
I was already under the circumstance that you already ate, so it was free game. And Darren and I were hungry. So yeah, we finished all of it, and there was the third little baby pan left over. So... it happened.
And Ty was always giving. Remember when he said, "Go ahead and take food home with you"? And
Oh, yeah.
They did.
Ty would give away anything. It was, no matter who came into the house, it was, what do you need? He was always a great humanitarian. But there were times that literally the kids were leaving with my real plates, not paper plates, my real cups, my real plates, and he'd be packing food on it for them and sending them out the door with my silverware and everything else, and never a thought. Take the towels from the pool. Yeah, take a bathing suit. We'll get more. It was very giving, and we love that about him. We'd always have to keep an eye on making sure we
buy extra bathing suits, extra towels. It was.
So you talked about how competitive I am, Dad. Since it is a Father's Day special, I think that this is a freebie to speak your mind. Where do you think I get my competitive nature from?
Is it too late to cut to another commercial break? These two, they're just not equipped to play games together. There is no doubt. During a commercial break, we brought up miniature golf, but it's a sport we don't play as a family anymore. It's scarred. Monopoly, if you know Tyler, it's a game we don't play as a family anymore.
I felt like we always enjoyed playing Monopoly. We played Monopoly one New Year's. Billy was up, and it was a fun time. There was no issues there. He won, so there was no issues there. It's just sometimes, Mom, many of you know me, and you know how competitive I get and how obnoxious I can be at times. I'm trying to restrain myself the older I get. I got it from my mom. She is the most competitive person I've ever met. I think she's more competitive than Pastor Lamick and Anne Marie and I. I really believe it. And she's good at games too. So it's always frustrating
she wins everything.
When she wins, because then she'll do her little strut, her little laugh, and then you know that she won. And it's just like, we played spades one time. I was beating my dad. We were on family vacation. I was destroying him. I felt so good. They switch off to drive the RV. Mom comes back, and she beats me. I was literally one hand away from winning, and she came back and beat me, and then she laughed about it.
Literally, I was one hand away from losing, and then...
It was like awesome. 10 to 490. Game ends at 500, and I come in I took that hand of 10, and I cleaned up.
See? You see it right now. Look, she's laughing right now. You see it. You can believe me.
I destroyed him.
Listen,
right there.
You win.
Right there. Oh, okay. So this is all good and fun. Before we go to our last question that I ask every one of our guests, do you have anything else to share about Tanner or I? Because I told our students that, this is going to be the nitty gritty where we get to hear about, us as a kid or anything else. Anything else you'd like to share about Tanner or I?
There's so many stories.
Yeah, there are a lot of stories. You both were very competitive, but I would say that you both, in all, joking aside, the one thing that I have loved about both of you is you're both polar opposites, but you both have a very kind heart. And there was a time when you were little, and I took you down to the basketball court, and it was little kids. We were still in Darlington at that time, so you might have been 8 yourself, and it was the beginning of the school season. You were about to go into middle school, and you had a chance. You were chosen as one of the captains, and there were some kids there that actually were basketball players. You were never a basketball player, but that wasn't your thing. But there was actual kids that were really good at basketball, and you became a captain. And so two of you guys could have picked, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, he's going to pick the kids that are actually good at basketball. So you're getting ready to play. So as competitive as you have always been, you've always done it with a kind heart, because the thing you did was you picked the kids that couldn't play basketball. And with every pick, I was like, what is he thinking? And so obviously the game went sideways. Your team did not win. And when I was walking you back to the car, I asked you why you chose, you had first choice, why you didn't choose the kid that was really, really good, why you chose the other kid, and you said, I picked him first because no one else would. And I've always remembered that story. So as much as you've always wanted to win, you just want to win against me. And that's because I it's against the things that I'm good at. But that's a story that sticks with me, because it made me humble myself, because all I could think of is, why wouldn't you want to win? And you picked it because it made a difference to that kid. And Tanner has done the same things, in different ways, but he's done things to go out of his way, and instead of crossing the finish line first, even during football practices and things like that, it wasn't always about crossing first. It was going back and getting the kid that was struggling. And he did that when he was 5 playing football. He had the endurance of, he'd never get tired, and he'd run up the hill and down the hill, and he'd always turn around and find the kid that was struggling, and he'd run all the way back and get that kid across. So I would say that we've talked a lot about your differences, but the one thing that you both had is a kind heart. So it's been a blessing for me to see.
Yeah, Tanner had all the energy in the world, because that hill was the worst hill ever at Northwestern, and that kid would run up and down it. I remember I was like in tears every time. I cried a lot as a kid. I don't cry much anymore, but I was in tears like every day football practice, because we had to run up that awful hill. And there's Tanner up and down, and I'm like up and down. Yeah, also, since you talked about how, as you can see, she was even that competitive mom. So if any of you have those competitive parents that, like, when you're playing the sport, your parents are, like,
I'm not
even
that,
in it.
I'm not that
Wrestling
parent.
was the
I'm
word.
not
I was
that
going to bring it up.
I'm
So
not that
wrestling.
parent. I'm not.
Two things. There was one match where we were in this very small gymnasium, and as the teams were wrestling, you would hear, it's usually quiet when you wrestle, unless you're in a big tournament, you hear everyone wrestling. I love wrestling. But there was this parent that was screaming in this little gym the whole time. So I'm getting ready for my match, and I look back at my mom, I go, Mom, you don't do that, right? And she goes, no. Well, wouldn't you know? In that same day, my match, my mother started doing it. But then she caught herself, because I asked her about it beforehand, and my dad reminded her that I asked her not to be that parent. Then the other one was, I was in a wrestling match, and I got dropped on my head. I was knocked out cold. And they were filming my match, and in the film they go,
Is this
no, this is him. No, this was him too. He's filming, and they're always like, fight to the last minute. Well, I'm unconscious, and I fell over, and I get pinned, and they go in the video, oh, he just gave up. I was out cold! That's how competitive my parents are. I'm laying there unconscious. His back's on the mat. He just gave up. Are you kidding me?
With wrestling, and I don't know why he loves wrestling, because when I took him to wrestling for the first time, I was watching all these kids get thrown around and squished, and I remember he was little. I was holding his hand, and I looked down at him, and I go, is this what you want to do? And he's like, yeah. And so for the first couple of years, the first 3 years, He never won a match, not one match, but he would still want to go do it.
I'm very athletic, but I think I have a very bad overall record of every sport. I'm not good at sports. I just enjoy the sport.
But he loved it. I don't know why. But he would, the whole time for 3 years, he would be on the bottom fighting to get up. And I would say to him, I will go and spend 8 hours watching you do 3 2-minute rounds, as long as you don't give up. If you really want to do it, you don't give up. You give it everything that you have. So when the little shoulder would drop, I'd be like, he gave up.
So my freshman year of high
fight to the end.
school, I think my first match of my high school career and one of my last matches of my high school career, I got dropped on my head, knocked out cold, and she goes, they both go, he just gave up. Oh, he's hurt. We got to go. So all fun and games. Thank you guys for doing this. I appreciate it. And I hope you guys at home got to enjoy something. But before we go, I want to ask you guys, because like I said, I ask everyone this to close. Why should people go to church? Why should people read their Bible? Why should people pray? And more specifically, as parents, why should children, students, go to kids programs, go to youth programs, be plugged into church more than just Sunday mornings? Like, why should we as a family go to church? And these kind of questions, just overall, your opinion on one or many of those things. It's a whole cluster of ending questions.
Very deep question there, Ty.
It's really just a big WHY question mark, all in one. So please share as we close.
Well, I'll jump in first, and then you can jump in. So I think that the importance of being involved at church is because it's a community. And I think it's a good reminder. I mean, we spent many years not tied into church, but understanding the story of God and trying to maintain that relationship. But I think it's important to be around others, and it's a good reminder to be in community, just for the support, but it's also a good reminder of others that are going through things, and being around people that share the same values and thought processes and faith. As far as the children, it was more important to me that your relationship as a child was strong at church and that you stayed involved. In fact, we made decisions about what church we went to based on how strong the youth group was. So I think that it's important to be, for the same reason, it's important to be connected to others that you can be open with and have conversations and be encouraging for one another.
And I think it's not, you don't have to look very far in today's society to realize, we all know we live in a fractured world. That's just the way it is. And it becomes more and more evident every time you turn on the news or you look out at what's going on. And I think it's so important that, just going to church, and like you said, it truly is a community. And, Jesus said, anywhere that 2 or more gather, I'll be there as well. And that's that community part, when you get together and, when you keep God as your focal point, life just seems to be so much better. And when you don't have that and you stray away and you start getting all caught up in life's many difficulties, you tend to forget what the focal point should be, and you start focusing on the things that will drag you further and further away. So for us, it's just so important that it's almost like recharging your battery. It reminds you what the focus of your life should be. And raising children for us was so important. I mean, I don't think you'd be where you are today if we weren't going to church. And Tanner's he wants to, go into an industry that helps people, and it's just so important. It just keeps, it's like a compass, and it just keeps you morally straight. And that's why it's so important to us.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Well, I believe that's all the time we have. So, Mom, Dad, thank you for coming. Happy Father's Day, Dad, and happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And thank you, parents, for your support for your children and the children who are friends with your children. So I just want to say thank you all for watching. Thank you for being a part tonight. And this is Tyler J.P. Herrick signing off of That's something I check.